Let's add some bullets, something to shoot to this project. As with previous sections, I'm going to guide you through some stuff that I've pre-created to save a little bit of time, hopefully. The first thing you're going to want to do if you're following along and creating your own work is to download and import the standard asset package from Unity. It comes with a whole bunch of prepackaged materials, prefabs, particle effects, textures, all sorts of things to use. It'll take a little while to import, and one thing that you'll notice very likely when you do is that it's actually going to have some errors. I want to show you how to fix them as the first thing we do in this video. So whenever you have an error on your console, you can just double click on it and it will open up the script that it relates to. And there's a bit of an older reference that has been recently updated, quite recently, to something different that we need to actually change here. Instead of GUI texture, it says to change it to UI.image, but it's not going to quite work. So this is why I wanted to show you in this video. I need to type in Unity engine, and then UI, and then .text. This is going to connect to the same functionality that the old way was trying to make with a new expression of it, basically. And then I'm going to go back in, and it might still have some errors. Look, it still says there's another one for this GUI text problem. So I think, yeah, it should still error. So I need to do the same thing again. Unity engine, and then UI and .text. And now it should fix all the other errors associated with it. And this should actually probably fix everything. It's going to re-import some stuff here as it kind of updates some other backend stuff. I'm going to press clear and run just to see. And yeah, that was it. There's those two things. An unfortunate thing they haven't fixed yet, but it's okay. We'll work with it. Don't worry about that error. That's something I need to talk about in the code in a sec here. So now that we have the assets imported and functioning, now we can start talking about how we created this, or how we're going to create our bullet system. In our first-person player, I already have a gun, a simple object that I made, and the gun has a muzzle, this invisible point at the end that's basically a spawner, like in our last project where I spawned those little death balls. In this case, this is where I'm going to spawn the bullets. I could have created the functionality for the bullets to be kind of like known and instantiated by the gun, and it could just create them at a bit of an offset, which would work no problem. That's a strategy you could choose to use if you'd like to. I just wanted to show you a different one. So I've attached my gun shooter script to my muzzle. Let's take a look at it. In it, I'm going to store a game object I'm calling ammo. This is going to be the bullet that I'll be shooting, the actual asset. Then I'm going to also attach a particle system. This is a new type of thing that I'll explain in a few minutes. It's actually just a simple kind of animated fancy effect. In my update, I'm checking to see if the left mouse button is pressed. Here's one way in Unity we can say left mouse button press. And then if it is pressed, I'm going to do two things: create ammo and process the flash. Creating the ammo, I'm instantiating my ammo that will attach here in a sec at the same position as my muzzle, right here at the tip of the gun. And I can easily just adjust that point whenever I want, and it's automatically going to adapt in my code, nice and generalized. I'm also going to queue up a destruction after 5 seconds to ensure that the bullets don't last forever in my world, because that would be a problem potentially. All right, then I'm going to process the muzzle flash. Oh, quick note, I'm also, when I instantiate my object, I'm assigning it to a temporary variable, temporary game object. This allows me to queue up the destruction afterwards. I also need to do this with my particle system, where I'm assigning it to a temporary variable when I instantiate it. The instantiation exactly the same. I'm instantiating whatever this particle system is at the same point as the muzzle. But this object that I created, I have now some new functionality I can access. If I go flash, I'll see there's a bunch of things that particle systems can do, play being one of them. I actually don't have to destroy this manually because I can set up my particle system to automatically be destroyed after it finishes playing its kind of animated sequence, nice and easily. So, not too bad. I can actually have some kind of an object be spawned and some kind of an effect to be played at that point when the left mouse button is pressed. Awesome. So what are we going to use for this? Well, I've pre-made some assets to save a little bit of time on my prefabs folder. And the first one here, it's called a bullet. And I'll just kind of zoom into it here. It's just a simple little sphere that has some components added to it. Let me give you a quick rundown of what I have added to this little bullet here. It has, well, a sphere collider because it's a sphere. We won't worry about these components here. I'm going to talk about the actual ammo manager in the next video. So I'm going to hide this for now. And I have attached a rigid body to this because object interactions are processed in many different ways, and we kind of don't want to worry about that complexity right now. I could use triggers to do interactions, but if I want to have my normal collision event, like I want this to be able to collide with the ground and the boxes and any other enemies in the world, really the easiest way is to attach a rigid body, and if I want the bullet to fly straight, just to disable gravity. So that's what I've done here. It's just a simple object, gravity disabled, and a rigid body. However, I don't want this bullet to just exist in the world. I want it to be created when I fire my gun. So what do I need to do here? At my muzzle, attach my prefab to the game object of my ammo. Next, my muzzle flash. In the standard assets pack, there is a particle systems folder full of prefabs of different particle systems that you can explore. For example, a dust storm. If I drag it in, you can see here that there's some dust around on my scene. That's the effect that's being applied. That's pretty cool. I also have smoke that I can drag and drop into my world. I just kind of jumped ahead here. What I've done is created a bit of a custom smoke object. How did I do it? I dragged the original smoke prefab into my project. Then I went back into my normal my main assets, and I dragged the smoke as an original prefab. So I kind of like duplicated it, and now I can edit a custom version of it myself outside of that original package stuff that I might want to leave to have another one later. I'm going to delete that for now because what I actually want to see is something I've made already called smoke. Let me give you a little brief tour of this really complex particle system, what we might need to be aware of. The duration determines how long it's actually going to run for. Looping determines if we want it to continue over and over and over again. If looping is disabled, it will be automatically destroyed after it finishes its one duration, which is exactly what we want. However, maybe in your scene you have a fire over in the corner and you want smoke to be rising from it always. Have it on loop. Duration in that sense only really matters for kind of how long it takes for its built-in animation sequence to play out, which connects to other settings as well. So really, if looping's enabled, duration isn't that important. Just leave it to its normal generic setting, whatever it comes with. But we can customize these things as we see fit. Start lifetime. We can actually set a range of values for our effect to be a little bit more interesting, so that if we have kind of multiple versions of it spawning, it doesn't look identical every time. So I've set it pretty close. I don't need it to be super different because it's very short. But if you have a longer effect, you want it to be a little bit more, like every time it loops, it looks slightly different. You can have it start lifetime be slightly different. You can customize and play with that and see what it's like. Lots of settings I'm going to skip over that you can just poke around and see if you like it or not. The size can be adapted as well initially. Rotations, lots of different things. You can also even change the colors of these things. So if I drop some smoke in here and kind of go up to the smoke itself and put it on loop, well, I'll just actually, here's a particle effect menu you'll see. I'm just going to press play and enable the looping here and let the smoke keep on going. I can change with this color palette kind of the tone of the actual smoke itself at the start. Notice it transitions to dark over time. That's a pre-built-in setting, but I can kind of give it a special tone if I'd like to. There's tons of things that we can do. I'm just going to set it to white so it's nice and light at the start. There's tons you can tweak with these things. We want it to simulate in the world, and we want it to be... Anything else we need to change here? Let me just really triple check. I think all of this is exactly what it is that we want now, but a few settings for you to tweak and your own custom particle effects that you're customizing from pre-built prefabs. The main things are probably turn off looping and change the duration for how we're building things in this particular setting here. But again, I don't want these to be sitting in my scene. I want them to be generated through my script, which, again, I just take that prefab I've made and attach it save my work, and now what should happen, unless I've made any typos, is that when I press the left mouse button, if it's on my screen here, oh, and my Unity just crashed. That's amazing. Congratulations, Unity. Well, in the next video, we're going to do something with the bullets anyway. So in the next one, I'll have Unity up and running, and I'll show you how it works, and we'll move on to the next thing. See you then.